If not, we'll move on to announcements and presentations. Under item A, our first is to receive a presentation from the San Mateo County Census on, of course, the important Census 2020. Is this Megan?
Yes, I am. Megan.
Please, welcome.
Thank you. Excellent. Mayor Medina, council members, city staff, thank you so much for having me here this evening. My name is Megan Gosh. I work for the County of San Mateo County Manager's Office of Community Affairs, and I'm here to talk to you about ensuring a complete count in the Census 2020. So just a brief history, and I'll go through this fairly quickly. We've been doing this every 10 years since 1790. So we're at our 230th decennial census. It's required by the Constitution that everyone participate and be counted regardless of citizenship status or criminal history. So why does the census matter? It's about money and power. So the power is representation, reapportionment of congressional seats. It is estimated that California will lose 1 congressional seat per this census. And it's also about money. There's $1 trillion in federal funding allocated every year. The state of California receives about $115 billion of that, and it's based solely on population numbers. The Census Bureau takes confidentiality very seriously. Every Census Bureau employee takes an oath for life to protect the data. And so the results are confidential. They're not shared with any department within the government. For 72 years, it's only presented as statistics. It's never an individualized household. So in 16 days, every resident will start receiving invitations to participate in the census. I'll say that again, 16 days. I've been working on this for 2.5 years. So it is amazing to me that we're 16 days away from this actually happening. Starting the 12th, people will receive invitation to participate. 88% of our county will be invited to participate online, which is very new. The other 12% will either have hand-delivered or mailed paper versions of the census questionnaire. There'll be 4 reminder postcards. After the fourth reminder, they will send paper surveys to each household. Starting May 13th, if residents have not completed their survey, that is when U.S. Census Bureau non-response follow-up individuals called enumerators will go door to door to ask residents to participate. We are recommending that to avoid someone coming to your door, answer quickly and do it online, preferably, so we can see submission results, which is new this decennial. We will have access to real-time data on a day-to-day basis by census tract to see where submissions have occurred. So we'll know if there's areas that we need to go and do outreach and focused messaging to those areas. So letters are bilingual. They will also include 12 English or non-English numbers for assistance. This is what the actual online form looks like. It'll also be available in 12 languages. You can see from this little video, you can toggle from each language that you may need. On your letter inviting you to participate, you'll have a 12-digit census ID. You enter that into the form. It'll show you the address and ask you to verify that address. You don't need to have that 12-digit ID, though. We guess that a lot of people probably will lose that invitation. They may not have it. There's a button that you can actually press and just enter your address. But something else that's new is those that are homeless or housing unstable, you can actually enter a location in a van behind Safeway. And that way, all of our homeless folks that are housing unstable can be counted as well. The Census Bureau will be doing a homeless count on March 31st, and so they're working towards that right now to have all the folks trained to do that effort. At the end of the survey, you will be asked to review your answers, and then you'll receive this submission confirmation form. We're asking folks to take a picture of that because there's a lot of community-based organizations and businesses that are having raffles or some sort of prizes for people to participate. So the online version is in 12 languages plus English, but there are 59 language guides as well. And so we have questionnaire assistance kiosks located throughout the entire county. Every library in the county, city and county library is participating, including San Bruno. We had a training this morning. We went over the whole questionnaire assistance kiosk information. They'll have binders of all the language guides to assist residents. There'll also be large print and braille as well. So what have we been doing? There's a lot of challenges to complete this census. I've alluded to some of them already. There's underfunding. The Census Bureau has less offices and less field staff. It's moving primarily online, which raises lots of concerns about data security, literacy barriers, and there's a fear and general lack of trust in the federal government. People don't want to share their personal data on the internet. And even though the citizenship question was not on the survey, it is not on the survey, it already raised a tremendous amount of anxiety among our immigrant communities. So what is at stake? We talked about the money. In 2016, we allocated $76 billion from the federal government. California is one of the few states that is a giving state. We pay more in taxes than we get back from the federal government. That money goes to our most critical community programs like WIC, Head Start, Section 8 housing, school lunches, special education and transportation projects. All of these things are at risk of losing funding. And did you know that 3 out of every 4 Californians belong to one or more groups that tend to be undercounted? And so many of these groups are homed right here in San Mateo County. 35% of our residents speak a language, 35% of our residents are foreign born, 47% speak a language other than English at home, and there's more than 100 languages spoken in our county. California is the hardest to count state in the entire nation. Children under 5 are also undercounted. And why is that, you may think? There's confusion about shared custody. You may think it's your partner may be claiming them on their form. There's people that are new to the area. Newborns, people oftentimes forget to mark their newborns on the questionnaire. So we're working with other community-based organizations. We're working with First 5. Sesame Street just put out a whole census set of videos and outreach tools that are really great that we've been promoting those as well. And again, the potential impact, not enough affordable housing. Public transportation won't meet demand. Traffic could get worse. Families have less support. Schools won't have enough resources. Health services could be limited. And emergency planning would be off the mark. And it's not just for this year, it's for the next 10 years that this will impact us. So in order to do our outreach and to prepare for this, we've set up a multi-tiered approach. We have our steering committee made up of department heads, representatives from elected officials, as well as city managers from some hard-to-count cities. We then have a complete count committee made up of about 50 cross-sector organizations, including libraries, transportation, schools, healthcare. And then we are working with community-based organizations as our action team. So they are the ones that are on the ground working as trusted messengers in their communities in language. As part of that, we have released about $1.3 million in contracts to our community-based organizations. We've had, 4 rounds of funding. And these are some of the organizations that we are funding. But it's not just San Mateo County that's providing funds. It's United Way Bay Area and the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. So between the 3 of us, we've allocated about $3 million just to San Mateo County organizations. So the $1 million question, how can you help? There's so much that everyone can do. Oops, let me go back there. We have on our website, it's our outreach resources. We have videos, PSAs, flyers, collaterals, multiple languages. We also have tools, a messaging guide, and a communication calendar. Every week I send out an email to people with a theme for the week. And we talk about key messaging, talking points, Twitter and Facebook posts, and images to just make it copy and paste and make it easy for everyone to share information. We have a texting campaign in place as well. And also, one of our U.S. Census Bureau partnership specialists, Teresa, is here, and they are still promoting and recruiting in our county. And so now they are looking for these non-response follow-up individuals. It's $30 an hour, it's part-time, it's flexible hours, and they stop recruiting March 31st. And lastly, talk about the census. If you have 2 or more people in a room, talk about the census. Ask them if they know it's online this time. You'd be surprised how many people do not know that it's online. Encourage people you know to self-respond early. Incorporate messaging into your communications, your newsletters, and remember the 3 census key points, the what, the why, and the how. It's every 10 years. It's really important because the census count is used to make lots of important decisions, and that's where you can customize the message to the folks that you're talking to. Make it relatable to them and important to what they find are their needs. And then lastly, the how. You can fill it out starting March, online, by phone, or on paper. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from council? Linda, please.
So thank you for the work that you do. I was a census counter years ago in San Mateo. My question is, what is being done to try to enhance the show up or the turnout of the temporary residents, as you mentioned?
Do you mean what temporary residents?
I think you use the word temporary residents, but undocumented.
Oh,
There's
sure.
a myriad of.
We're working with a lot of community-based organizations. So we as a county are providing outreach, but we know that we're not the messengers that people want to hear it from. So we're working with Puente and Nuestra Casa and Job Train and lots of organizations that primarily work with our undocumented communities along the coast and within North Fair Oaks, East Palo Alto, Menlo Park. So we're working with them to provide them with outreach materials and tools that they then customize and go out into the field and speak to people.
And who would be your service provider or contact person here in San Bruno?
I'll have to look through my whole list of individuals. There's many organizations funding that are covering San Bruno. I can't remember off the top of my head, there's like at least 5. I have a map that was shown previously. I think it's in your packet if you have a printout as well. It should list them, but I can make sure you get that information.
Okay.
On our website too, we also show everyone that's funded.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
It doesn't show San Bruno specifically, but it shows it to you as countywide.
I really want to thank you for coming out, and I know it's important, and I know that the county is working diligently, and it's been interesting to me because there are so many folks with different hats. And I've spoken to one who was looking for meeting facilities, spoken to another who handles another facet of it, of looking where can they go in San Bruno in order to try to get the word out to, like you said, they want to hear it from others, specifically maybe people that they know that it's okay to participate, that they don't have to fear anything. So I do want to thank you for all the work because as you said, you've got, 15, 16 days, and I know you've been waiting 2.5 years for it.
Yeah, thank
so thank you for being here this evening, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to items B, C, and D, and Melissa is going to be standing in for Joanne.
Yes. The San Bruno Library will be presenting another installment in the Coffee in the Cosmos series on Saturday, February 29th, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the downstairs community room. The featured speaker will be Dr. Nick J. Scott, lead research scientist at NASA's Ames Research Center in California's Silicon Valley. Please join us for a talk, some refreshments, and an informal Q&A session. Are you an artist who has 2D works you would like to display at the San Bruno Library? If so, the San Bruno Culture and Arts Commission invites you to apply for the Community Art Gallery program. Application deadline is March 20th. For more information and an application, please visit the Culture and Arts Commission's webpage or call Program Liaison Tim Wallace at 650-616-7084. The Recreation Department is accepting applications for various part-time positions for summer employment for both camp and aquatic programs. Interviews will be scheduled in April. If you are interested in applying, please visit the calops.org website or pick up an application at the Recreation Center.
Thank you, Melissa. Let's move on to item E, receive, report, and review status of local emergency related to repairs to Crestmore Canyon and continuing declaration of local emergency. City Manager, or I'm sorry, I apologize, Mr. Tan.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Public Works Director Jimmy Tan. I'm here to provide a brief update on the Crestmore Canyon project. Since our last council meeting, we made some additional progress on the project. The contractor, Hillside Drilling, continued their tieback installations and completed the installation of all the tiebacks on February 13th. They also began demobilizing their equipment from the site during that time. And starting on the 18th of February, the contractor commenced the performance testing of these tiebacks. And the testing is done to ensure the tiebacks will be able to achieve the design loads. So as they were testing, 4 out of the 12 tiebacks have failed. And so the contractor ended up grounding those tiebacks and so that they can be tested again at a later time. The contractor will be resolving those tieback locations next week, doing some additional testing on those. So just have some pictures to show you as well here. These are some of the pictures I was shown the last time, these how the tiebacks were installed. Here. And this kind of shows the performance testing that they do. You know, all the tiebacks are drilled into the below the surface. So they're actually having to do a pull test to measure the actual the strength, the pounds of the force of these tiebacks. So there's a zoom picture here. A couple of guys, there's equipment that I circled here. It's a little hard to see, but there's a gauge there that shows the actual force that's being measured for these tiebacks. So, as I mentioned, the contractor will be continuing to test these tiebacks, the ones that have failed, and hopefully by next week everything will be resolved. So this concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Tan? We do have a speaker card also.
Aysin Alatot.
Thank you, sir, for your comment on the Crestmore area and the update. I am curious, what is the remainder of the funds that is left over from the lawsuit that we had when the explosion occurred? Also, every time I see a bunch of PG&E trucks around, I wonder to myself, is there another leak that they detected? I also heard that PG&E is filing for bankruptcy, so I don't know if that's going to impact us in the future somehow, but I would like to know how that's going to somehow affect everyone who uses the service of PG&E. I also would like to suggest that the public comment be placed on the bottom of the agenda so that people who are here less than 10 minutes late can have an opportunity to comment on all of the items that are on the agenda. I originally came here because of Don Pico restaurant that's being replaced with a liquor store. I cannot believe that you guys are doing that. And if you know what are the hallmarks of a ghetto or the hood, it would be liquor stores and many places of worship. So that is something it seems like you guys are more concerned about, as well as starting a cannabis club here in San Bruno. It would generate a lot of revenue. Yes, Rico.
This is in regards to the San Bruno.
Right, I did say that in the beginning of my comment.
That's the
and then
topic
I'm
we need to stay on.
Finishing my comments that I was originally coming here for. Thank you, Mayor
all right.
and City Council members.
Thank you very much for your comments.